Hi, I'm Kelly Hunter. Welcome back to Respect the Process. I am joined by my good buddy, voice of Crimson Tide Athletics, Chris Stewart, who is in a great mood because the Alabama men's basketball team is on a 2-game win streak.
It's been nice.
Coming off of, okay, is reaching 100 important to Nate Oates?
Not as much as playing well defensively.
Okay.
I was thinking of, I know we'll spend a lot of time talking about the Kentucky win today, and we should. But, a year ago we went to Rupp and scored 90-something and lost by like 15 or 20.
Yeah.
I mean, got our ears
boxed.
Yeah, let's start to say our ears kicked in, our teeth kicked in. It was, a game where you played pretty good offensively, but you were terrible on defense. He would prefer, I think, to see you hold a team down, but he wants you taking the right shots, and he wants you taking them pretty frequently. So that's going to mean, obviously, scoring a lot of points in the process.
I know I heard him say that he was not happy with Monday's practice. He kept them a little bit longer on Monday to hopefully get them in the right mindset or the right frame of mind heading into this week to play against Vanderbilt. And he was not happy with the way they played in the second half of the Vanderbilt game because they had a fairly comfortable win against Vanderbilt, but it was never just we're going to clear the bench and let those guys play the rest of the game.
They had to recrank the car. Here's the problem with that, and I know what you're saying. There's only one walk-on the roster. Everybody else is
playing.
I mean, literally, they're playing.
Yeah.
Max Charnowski is, the
blonde kid.
The blonde kid, the blonde bomber is the only walk-on there. Everybody else truly, I looked at one time, it was mop-up time. And there were 2 McDonald's All-Americans on the floor.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
You had Darion Reed and Aiden Sherrill out there at the same time. That was your mop-up group. So that's where the roster is. That's where the talent and depth happen to be. But it was a game that did get dicey. I mean, because Vanderbilt can play a similar way. They do get up and down the floor. They'll score after a made basket. They'll definitely push it after a miss. So they've got a team that is very dangerous, and that was up to a 22-point lead, and over the span of about 4 to 5 minutes, it gets cut down to 10 points. I don't know if it got as close as 9, but I know it was as close as 10. And it could have been very dangerous, but Alabama thankfully was able to recrank the car and build that out quick, back-to-back threes, get it up to 16 again, and then you're feeling more comfortable. But there's no doubt the start to the second half, which they got the shots they wanted. They got the looks they wanted. They got to the free throw line. But they went ice cold for the first 5+ minutes of the second half. I mean, they were like 2 of 7, and that's
we
coming
know
off.
that has been a kryptonite for them.
It's not consistently.
Yeah.
There have been a couple of games where it was so bad it stood out. I mean, you're in the 55 to 65% range. But this is a team that's shooting 70% for the year and shot like 82% or more, maybe 85% at Rupp Arena, and actually shot more free throws than Kentucky, which hardly ever happens. And boy, they were not happy about that in the Bluegrass. But it's the way Alabama plays. Yes, they take a lot of threes, but it's drive to the basket to try to get a layup
or a 3
or a free throw opportunity or an open look for 3. You get the defense to collapse, you kick it out, all of those things. So it's not uncommon to get a lot of free throws. I think the 2 times they've scored, 2 most recent times, if I'm not mistaken, that they had eclipsed 100 prior to the Kentucky game or this one in the Kentucky game, they didn't have a ton of threes. I'm looking at last night's box. Alabama was only 8 of 22 from 3. Now, against Kentucky, that's a little bit different story.
Yeah.
I think they went 13 of 34 for 38%, but, 36% with only 8 made threes and you scored 103 points, that's pretty impressive because you're getting to the free throw line, but dear Lord, they left 11 points on the table, going 23 of 34 for the whole contest.
Well, two guys, we talk about the story from last night. Mo Diabate is one of the guys who every coach wants on their team. You talk about squeaky shoes on defense, diving for loose balls, and he's 6'7". Did I forget to mention that he's got limbs that go for days? But Crimson Tide fans know him. But after the Kentucky game and after last night's game, more and more people are going to get to know him. 22 points last night as well.
He has changed from being a guy who was really he was great to have on the team because he's a guy that doesn't require shots or the offense to necessarily run through him to get his points and to get his opportunities. Everything for him had been right at the rim, normally as a second chance opportunity on a possession. But he's become a threat on offense. One thing, he's become a much better free throw shooter, much more consistent. He handles the ball better. He was strong last year, but it's a year's difference in a college weight room and conditioning and everything that's involved there. So he is in a much better position physically and maturity-wise to have an even greater impact. And there was a point in the second half, about 5 minutes to go, where he was looking for his shot. He had a mismatch, and that's something that Nate does such a good job with, is finding, guys know when they've got a mismatch, or they identify the weakest link, if you will, on the other side, and they're trying to, here's how we know this guy's the deficiency. Here's where the worst matchup for him will be. Here's how we're going to get that chess piece in this position so we can get the mismatch that we want. And, man, I felt a little bit for Magnon for Vanderbilt. I think it's Chris Magnon. He had no chance of stopping Mohamed Diabate. And Mo was identifying it before he ever crossed midcourt. He had the ball in his hand, bring it up the floor, and he saw who was going to, and he was not slowing down. He was taking it right at him, and that guy had a business decision to make. Yeah. And he tried to, until I think he fouled out or got real close, he was trying to hang on for dear life, but he had no chance of stopping that guy because Mo was able to make some moves besides getting into the right position. He didn't have to. Great example is Edwards, the guard for them, who does a good job of getting a position, and then he sells it. He flops a little bit, but that's his only chance. Yeah. I can foul a guy that's bigger than me, or I can hope that he fouls me. Mo was staying under control so that he never did that. Which is
that is a maturity.
Change.
It's a big change from years past.
Two other things real quick with him, and I'll move on.
No.
Plus 21 on the floor against Kentucky in 15 minutes when he's there. And for those that aren't sure about the plus minus, that's another number that most teams keep, but especially Alabama looks at to say, all right, how much or are we outscoring the other team with you on the floor? Alabama was outscoring Kentucky by 21 with him on the floor. That number grew considerably.
It was 26
It was 25 or 26 against Vanderbilt last night. He played more minutes, but the reason he got more minutes is he was even more impactful.
The other one, Aiden Holloway last night, also with 22 points. A perfect first half for him. I think 16 points in the first half, and then an absolute stunner of a block shot. Another night, another opportunity for him to step up. And then even in the post game, he may have ruffled some feathers, but he said something to the effect of, this year everything is it's a more conducive situation for him. It's a better environment for him to be able to step up and play.
Yeah, and again, I think that's what he's saying. It's a better environment for him. He's not saying where he was a bad environment. No. That's a heck of a team and a program at Auburn. conference tournament champions last year. Yeah, they got upset in the first round of the tourney, but it's not like it impacted and carried over into this year. They're number one in the country. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Bruce Pearl's presence in Auburn, Alabama, has made Alabama basketball better.
Without question.
His presence when he first, and I'm getting off topic, but I got to go to this.
Go ahead. I'll bring us back.
When Bruce went to Auburn, Auburn really rolled the dice on him because of where he was in his career. And to a degree, Bruce rolled the dice because that's been such a tough place to win historically. Pockets of great success, but they weren't very lengthy. And he's taken it to a spot they've never been. Obviously, not just the Final Four, but a number one ranking. The things that...
And sustained
tangible.
success.
You're exactly right. He'll have a bad year, but for the most part, that's a place that's very tough to win. And heck, wherever they go now, it's tough to beat them. Well, they only lost once. But when Bruce came to Auburn, Anthony Grant was at Alabama, and Anthony beat him twice. His first two games against Alabama, Bruce lost. And Alabama still made a change because they knew that the track we were on was not good enough after 6 years. And also, you knew what was coming down the track with Bruce. So you hire Avery Johnson, and we're better. It was pretty competitive. I don't remember what the final numbers were, but they were close to 50-50. But also, it was obvious Bruce had built the better program, and Alabama wanted to be elite. But you definitely had to be better. If you're going to win your conference, you better be able to win your state. And Nate Oates has done that for the most part. I think as a basketball fan, and again, I grew up in the 80s, a teenager in the 80s, and fell in love with the game. I'm playing high school basketball at Central Park Christian in Birmingham, but Gene Bartow is building or adding to his legacy at UAB. Wimp Sanderson was doing historic things in Tuscaloosa, and I pulled for Sonny when it didn't negatively impact Alabama or Auburn. How could you not like him? But basketball meant something in the state in the 80s, and it was relevant. And I knew, in fact, I told Bruce this at a golf tournament, just two of us talking. I said, you've already made us better, just your presence. And I know it's going to get even better. I didn't know we were going to sit here and be able to talk 10 years after that conversation, and Alabama's number 3 in the country, and the number 1 team is Auburn.
Right.
And when they meet in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is, it may be a 1 versus 2 matchup.
Yeah.
A lot can happen. We may both be out of the top 10, but that is trending more likely towards a 1 versus 2 game by the time we get there. It's fantastic. It's amazing. Yes, my allegiance, my concern, my care is Alabama. But as a basketball fan, it is awesome to have the interest in the game and the sport that we have. Andy's doing really good things at his alma mater in Birmingham. South is having a good year down in Mobile. I could go all over the place. But Alabama and Auburn doing what they're doing is really, really exciting and really special. Obviously, I hope Bama beats them every time.
Right.
But just as a fan, it's awesome to see this type of interest and the elevation to – I said we wanted to see basketball get back to its heyday. We're in the heyday right now.
Okay, getting back to quickly. So getting back to a combination of last night's game as well as this past Saturday when you were in Kentucky. Mark Sears, 45 points, 2 games,
Yeah.
Just doing it. So quickly, you look at last night's game, you had Aiden Holloway with 22. You had Mo with 22, and you had Mark with 21.
Yeah. I'll take my chances for Alabama night in and night out with that combo.
Okay, so you got to see a rare experience at Kentucky in Rupp Arena. you got to see a mass exodus with time still left on the clock.
Yeah. It was
that
rare.
does not happen.
It doesn't. And it's not like it was a rout, but they knew with 30, 45 seconds to go that it was over. And it's one thing to see it happen under Cal, because Kentucky fans had grown tired of young standouts coming in and not being a great team. Good team, but not a great team, not an NCAA championship team, because that's what they care about. They want to see their guys do well, but they don't want to see them come in for a year, be okay, not win a title, and move on.
Yeah.
They didn't care how many guys they had in the NBA if they weren't cutting down nets while they're in Lexington. Not that they pull against those guys, but it's about what you do while wearing that Kentucky uniform. I understand that. I get that. There's nothing wrong with that. Mark Pope is one of theirs. He's not just winning. He's winning the Kentucky way. That's a really good basketball team that Alabama beat, and able to do it in front of a packed house, a very good team, and Alabama was better. That's the incredible thing. North Carolina's in a different spot. They're not anywhere close to being, in my opinion, North Carolina right now. But I got to broadcast Alabama basketball wins.
I mean, they
in
were
Chapel Hill.
They were trading
and
punch for punch.
Lexington.
Like it was
They did.
down the back, boom, boom, boom.
It was back and forth. The first 10, 15 minutes of that first half were so much fun. And I knew I wanted to, of course, I want to see Alabama win. But again, I go back to just as a basketball fan.
Right.
How could you not? And I think, went back and watched a little Jay Billis and Dan Schulman talking about how can you not enjoy this?
Right.
How could you not be entertained by what's going on? And, those are two high-level teams that both of which have the capability of getting to a Final Four, playing on the national stage, the marquee game right after game day on ESPN, and they put on a show. Really did.
And it's funny now that I think about it, we can't do a show without bringing up Nick Saban because, he talks about he would get on his teams and his players more after wins than he would after losses. Losses, he felt like it was his job to coach him up and to kind of help bring him back. And, thinking back to now what Nate was saying about, Coach Oates was saying about on Monday, in Monday's practice, he kept them there longer.
Yeah.
He wanted to see what where their head was this week.
Right.
What are we going to be working for this week?
And that goes back to what happened the previous week because by his own admission, he was not happy with them the way they played against Ole Miss, but he took responsibility for that. He goes, it was a night game in College Station. It was a 3-hour game. I don't think we got back to Tuscaloosa before 1:30, 2 o'clock.
That was that Saturday night.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Saturday night / Sunday morning. So here you are, you got a Sunday, basically off day. You watch a little film around 5 o'clock or so, and then you go and practice the next day. Well, you don't go that hard with your workout because you got a game the next day.
Yeah.
And your hope is let's get through this one, and then we'll rest up and then get really better.
Yeah.
Before Saturday, the game at Rupp. Well, they didn't play well. Played terrible.
No, and Chris Beard's Ole Miss came in ready to play, too.
Did. And so that's where he goes, okay, we're going to make sure this doesn't happen. Now, it doesn't seem like a lot, but they really had more than a half-day advantage in that game from the previous week. The A&M game, as I said, tipped off at 7:30.
Oh, yeah.
7:30 later.
Y'all were
3 hours.
Yeah. Y'all
3
were
hour
by Saturday
game.
night we were talking.
Yeah, we're coming from College Station. It's a hour-and-a-half flight, I
When
guess.
coming from Lexington.
No, I was talking about from College Station the previous week.
I'm confused.
Now you got an 11 o'clock tip Central Time against Kentucky on the road, but it's a quick game, and you got an hour flight in your home, and you're also feeling better because you won. And not that we didn't feel good about A&M, but it was definitely a great feeling coming off the loss to Ole Miss. But to your point, he made sure, we can rest Wednesday if we need to. We're getting after it.
Yeah.
We're going to go in more intently on Sunday. He said the schedule itself really didn't change. He said it truly didn't change. We had a little more time, though, between the Saturday game and the film study.
Yeah.
And he goes, I did go harder with them on Monday than I had done the previous week because we did have a message we needed to get across. So that was the real change. That was the real difference. And you understand why. And it paid dividends. They didn't, they weren't lights out of the gate, but they were engaged from the start.
Well, and the win at Rupp kind of overbalanced the loss at home to Ole Miss, and the ranking didn't really.
It got better.
They tumbled up and found themselves at number 3. So now sitting at number 3 with a 16-3 record overall, and this is a dumb question, but is 20 wins still the benchmark anymore nowadays with like the Ken Pom and holiday tournaments and expanded conferences? Because that used to be like
sure it did.
20 wins, you're going to the conference, you're going to the NCAA championship.
And it's why Wimp used to talk about it. He was going to schedule 20 wins. He couldn't control who and what he played and where in conference, but he could control the other.
Yeah.
And they didn't always play bad teams. That's not it. But he had a bunch of wins built in.
Fine 20, yeah.
Alabama's schedule, the teams you point to that you go, oh, okay, that's a win. All right, that may not be as big a name, but that's a team that's probably picked to finish in their top 2 in their mid-major conference. The only bad team RPI-wise or in the Ken Pom stuff was North Dakota. And the purpose of that game was to
the Grant Hill Classic.
To give Grant, you did what I've done many times. You
I
said
did Grant Hill, Grant Nelson.
Grant Nelson goes back to, I'm just amazed that I caught it. Grant Nelson to go home to a school real close to where he's from in Grand Forks. So everybody else is good with a good RPI, good whatever that the Ken Pom, whatever the quad 2 is what I was looking for.
Quad 2, quad 1.
Everybody else is quad 2 or quad 1. That would have been a quad 3 or 4 loss if they had lost to North Dakota, and they almost did. But point being, if you get 20 wins or when you get 20 wins on this schedule, you will have absolutely accomplished something. It looks nice when you're referring to it historically, but really and truly as it relates to the NCAA tournament, it's not what it used to be.
Yeah. I just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Things.
You're selling it if you don't have the success that you want to have at the end of the year. You're able to refer back to that. Well, another 20-win season. This is X number of years with 20 wins. However you want to phrase it. But 20 doesn't tell the story anymore.
Yeah.
Who did you play? Who did you play and who did you beat are extremely important, not just how many.
Yeah. Okay. Squeeze in a little football here. National championship over, done, OH. IO. Okay.
Ain't gonna get me doing that.
Yeah, I know. I thought I'd try. But
did you watch it?
I watched a little.
Same here.
I'm just curious now because 2 years in a row we've had in this Big Ten champions, and even this year you have Big Ten. Notre Dame's Big Ten adjacent. Are they going to have some talks in the SEC football coaches meetings about, guys, this is unacceptable? I mean,
no,
I know they're not, but it's,
right.
The rest of the country's like,
it's fair conversation. Greg Sankey.
Because
there were some
SEC
things
did not
done.
perform well either in our teams that did.
Yeah, exactly. There was, Greg Sankey challenged the leagues and the schools, I should say, schools within the league, to get better at men's basketball. And one of the things was scheduling. And everybody just about made some serious upgrades to who and what they were doing. I don't think we're at the point you got to tell anybody that in football. There are probably only a few places that you go, really sure the guy they've got can win. I'm not saying there haven't been some tough years. Auburn certainly wants to see more success from Hugh Freeze in year 3. Alabama wants to see more success from Kalen DeBoer in year 2. There are a lot of teams, there are a lot of schools where you're going to get a raise for winning 9 ball games.
I think most schools would like to see more success from there.
Yeah, and go into a bowl game in Tampa. Alabama's not one of those. Yeah. Alabama's where you're going. Everybody's going, what happened and how do we keep this from happening again? Yeah. Most schools are going, how can we achieve that again?
Yeah.
It's different at Alabama, and that's fine. That's what makes Alabama Alabama. It's why Kalen DeBoer came to the university, and it's one of the reasons. His past history, along with Alabama's, is why I think you may have seen the low watermark for him as the head coach in Tuscaloosa. And I'm talking about by the time all is said and done, whatever his history and his run is in Tuscaloosa, I have the distinct feeling that year 1, as it was for Nick Saban, was the low watermark.
Stuart Mandel, who's the longtime writer, he's written for CBS and now he's writing for The Athletic. He did his way too early top 25 college football poll. He put Alabama at 14 for next season. So it will be interesting.
That's fine.
To see.
And I think part of the reason why is that part of what that is, I'm not saying the writers aren't sincere in their beliefs, but you're trying to draw eyeballs.
Yes.
Anytime, but especially right now.
Yes, good point.
And it draws more eyeballs and more conversation to talk about Alabama at number 14 than it does at number 4. And I think that's a big part of it.
That's what he did say. He goes, 10 years ago, you just kind of put Georgia and Alabama and a couple others in a hat, and you pulled one out and just put that down as number 1 and just kind of went from there.
But how many clowns tried to make their name for themselves by saying the dynasty is dead under Nick Saban?
There are a lot of them.
How many times they did that? Did it after the first Ole Miss loss? Did it after the second Ole Miss loss? They wrote after the Louisiana Monroe loss the first year, it's never going to be done at Alabama. Then when he did win, it's, he's not going to stay. And then it was clear that he was going to stay. It immediately goes to, he's going to retire. So if you say enough stuff, eventually you'll get something right. I do it every week.
I know.
But I'm not trying to say stupid stuff.
I just do it.
I just do it
naturally.
Language. It's my love language.
Okay, Mike the Tiger and the whole LSU.
It's one of the few times I didn't mind seeing anything from a rival school. I thought the pictures were so cool of Tiger Stadium frozen. Mike the Tiger enjoying in his habitat there. The snow, that was cool stuff.
Well, they're coming this way. So have they set a tip-off for Saturday night?
No, I thought you were talking about the snow.
Well, they did, but they want to get out of there because we didn't get snow, and they did. So
I got a feeling it'll be fine by Friday.
So is tip-off set for 7:30? Is that what
that is? A 7:30.
I think it's a 7:30 tip-off.
Yep, you're
for
correct.
For Saturday evening, LSU and Alabama. Let's see, LSU 1-4 in conference play, 12-6 overall. So we can obviously hear you on Saturday night. And if you're looking for more of Chris, because who isn't, you can always find him at chrisstewart.online. 2 S's.
2 S's.
As you can always remember. A big thanks to Scott Forrester for...
We're done already?
Hacking into the mainframe back there to get this thing on the air for us. We always appreciate that. Find everything you're looking for, all of the Crimson content at Cover Crimson, as well as... I just need to land the plane. As well as everything you need on the next round.
Are you okay?
Every single day. I was slowing down.
Good job.
Because that's what I always tell everyone else to do. If you just slow down.
Deep breath.
You just slow down. This won't happen. So you can find them every single day at the next round. I'm Kelly Hunter. Chris Stewart. Give him a good one.
Roll Tide.
We'll see you next week. Take care.